You're still watching the morning call here on Africa News. Now, Mauritania's endless sea of sand dunes hides an open secret. An estimated 10 to 20% of the population lives in slavery. Mauritania was the last country in the world to abolish slavery. Nonetheless, tens of thousands of people, mostly from the minority Haratine or Afro-Mauritanian groups, still live as bonded laborers, domestic servants, or child brides. Local rights groups estimate that 1 in 2 Haratines are forced to work on farms or in homes with no possibility of freedom, education, or pay, Ruth.
Indeed, Nyasha, slavery continues to exist in Mauritania, although it was officially abolished in 1981. According to the abolitionist movement era, part of the population suffers acts of slavery of various kinds, ranging from religious and political exclusion to land exclusion. And as part of its efforts to ensure that the anti-slavery law is enforced in the country, the era has taken steps to denounce every act of slavery committed against the people of Soninke, the black Mauritanian community. The aim is to trigger a reaction from the authorities, who in 2014 enacted a law criminalizing slavery.
And now to understand more about what's happening in this community, we're joined by Africanews correspondent Moulaye Najim, joining us from Nouakchott in Mauritania. A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us on the program. Now, these reported new cases of slavery affecting particularly the black community in Mauritania are causing a great deal of controversy in the country. What exactly is the situation?
Bonjour et joyeux Noël.
Hello and Merry Christmas. Slavery in the black Mauritanian community in general, and Soninke in particular, especially in the Gudimaka region, is rarely criticized by the media and social networks. However, the problem that associations and other human rights NGOs often stigmatize only the Arab community, whereas this phenomenon is observed among the black African populations of Mauritania. Among the Soninke, for example, and the Pula, slaves are numerous, although no figures can be put forward for lack of statistics. But what is new in this case is that it's just been denounced at a more politically important and more popular level by the contemporary figure of the anti-slavery struggle, Duram Ould Abed. In fact, this defender seems to be proceeding by the order of priority, in other words, an anti-slavery struggle at the level of the Mauritanian to condemn the vice of slavery, which goes deeper with true cases and others at the lower level due to strong social and economic ties that hinder the access of freed persons and self-sustaining freedom that allows them to reach at the state of true freedom.
Au stade de la liberté véritable.
Moulaye, the slavery of black Mauritanians is becoming a recurring problem, and yet there's a law criminalizing this practice. Why is it not enforced, and what needs to change for things to look different?
It
must be said that in Mauritania, NGOs agree that slavery should not be separated from its fundamental nature as a deep-seated problem that must be addressed systematically in Mauritanian communities, and even if other actors are not yet aware of its forms, which are still suppressed either by the presumed slavers or the victims, who often do not have the means to expose it, especially when they are aware of the social and other repercussions they may face. It should be recalled that the social fabric of the black African societies in Mauritania is still characterized by a strong caste-based stratification. If this social structure might have been necessary at the time in the recent history of these populations, it seems today to be totally obsolete. Indeed, it's not possible to coexist today with the entry into the modern era and the transformation that comes with it. Therefore, Slavery should be treated as a single and indivisible evil so that victims who are called upon to get rid of it do not feel like they are facing discrimination or by giving priority.
So, Moulaye, is slavery the result of division and discrimination among cohabiting communities in Mauritania?
Slavery and its multiple forms do not imply coexistence, but rather foster division and conflict, especially as victims of slavery in Mauritania today are beginning to become aware of their ability to free themselves. This is encouraged by the presence all around them of anti-slavery defenders and NGOs and other authorities who have been compelled by this phenomenon and forced to address it by enacting laws criminalizing slavery and creating bodies with funds of several billion, including, in our case, Tazour, a delegation of solidarity and the fight against exclusion, recently created to stimulate the conditions for a harmonious society without major inequalities or disparities. And finally, it's worth highlighting the laws adopted by Mauritania in the fight against all forms of slavery and the official commitment shown to eliminate the injustice that this evil does to the country, which sometimes is wrongly referred to as a country of slavery. Without invalidating it, it must be acknowledged that there's a real desire on the part of authorities to put an end to this.
Well, we hope that the authorities will be able to, respond in a manner that will be satisfactory to the Mauritanians there. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. That was Africanews correspondent Moulaye Najim joining us from Nouakchott in Mauritania. Very big thank you there.